Whether you're a lifelong keeper or just getting started, help us encourage responsible keeping, conservation, and public education in the interest of keeping our reptiles safe and healthy as we protect them for future generations. You're invited to spend time with us as we experience these awesome animals together on Intrepid Exotics.
Hey everybody, welcome back. We're coming off of a bit of a break here. I wanted to start off the new year kind of going back to the roots of the channel where we started. The very first video was on reticulated pythons, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, a lot of you guys that have kept up with the live streams have seen the smaller snakes that we keep up in the office. We've always got them online with us and hanging out, playing co-host. But we've got a couple larger ones down here. And I've seen some comments and questions coming through online in different groups. Folks talking about how big is it going to get? You know, is it safer to get a male than it is a female because maybe they won't get so big? What's the deal with dwarves and super dwarves and all that? Well, I've got some examples of some reticulated pythons here. One example in Chloe that you may see going into a reptile expo or something like that. And kind of another example over here of what she's going to turn into. Just to help give folks that don't keep these animals a bit of a point of reference as to, you know, they may look really small and easy, but these animals can be really deceiving when you first go and start looking at them. You get them home and a few years later, you've got a really substantial animal on your hands. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to bring out my reticulated pythons. We're going to go over some of that stuff. But first, I've got to go in here with my dragon, my Nile monitor back here, and get him enclosed in his part of the enclosure here, get the door down, so that we can get the bigger snakes in here. I want to get him in here and let him run around some. So let's see how he does. Now, Niles has been feeling himself lately. Here the last few months, I can still come in, work with him, clean his house and all that other stuff. But when I come in here, he is just wanting to he's wanting to get his mouth on everything. So I'm starting to bring my feeding tongs in here just so that I can kind of push him away if he starts getting too squirrely. Come on, buddy. Come on, bud. Why don't you go on in your tub? I know. Come on. Put them down there. Come on. God, big buddy. Get down there. All right, watch your nose. All right, now that he's secured in there. Now this snake is about what you're going to see at your typical pet store, your typical reptile expo. You won't see too many people out there really selling off the big snakes. Every now and then you will, but for the most part, when you're seeing animals like retics and berms and anacondas, this is about the size that you're going to encounter. And she's really manageable. And you may look at this and think, man, this is such a gorgeous animal. I'd love to have her. And she is great. Retics are very intelligent animals. They're really tractable, real easy to work with, especially when they're this age. And as you can see, she's actually going into shed. So she's just wanting to curl up and be left alone. Don't you? But yeah, she's the sweetest girl in the world. You're going to notice about my retics is once I get them out of the enclosure and I make sure they don't have an active food response or something, I don't worry in the least about them biting me. That's the last thing on my mind. Most of the time, I'll open up her enclosure, and as soon as the door opens up, she just comes right out and sits on my shoulders. I don't recommend doing that with all your snakes unless you know them really well and you know that's what they do. If you're not very familiar, or if you got a new snake or something like that, always be careful and don't give them the benefit of the doubt until you're really comfortable with them. Like I said, this girl, she's actually got really good control of her food response. But this is an example of what you may see as a smaller retic. Now I'm going to put her away, and we're going to go get my female, my big female out, and kind of show a side-by-side comparison. Now this is one of those girls that I am always really chill with her, but when I went to just open up her door a little bit, she opened up her mouth just a hair, and she was moving really fast. So it means she's got a hot food response. I'm going to go ahead and wait. Actually, she's starting to come over here to me. Come on, girl. All right, get on in there. These bigger snakes you're going to find, they're much easier to work with if you just kind of point them in a direction. Let them go that direction in their own volition. Come on. She was a little reluctant to get out because she just ate a few days ago. But she didn't have a terribly big meal, and you can't even see the food bump anymore. So this snake right here is about a 17-foot, 80-pound animal. And come on, sweetie. Come on out here and say hello to everybody. As you guys can see, this is significantly different than little Chloe over there. This is one thing I really like about adding this door on the Niles enclosure. It's having the ability to close this space off in here, and I can let these bigger snakes out of their enclosures, even the smaller ones. Let them out of their enclosures, just let them run around in here. But you'll notice this animal looks different than Chloe does. For those of you guys that aren't really familiar with reticulated pythons, typically when you see the yellow ones, there's 3 different types of albino morphs with them. The main morphs are lavender, white, and purple are what they're called. And Chloe over there, she's a lavender. Monty right here is what's known as a motley. So as you can see, I'm already starting to work up a little bit of a sweat down here. One thing about reticulated pythons is they can be stubborn. When they want to do something, they want to do it. And once they're adults, they're getting close to it. They understand that they can do pretty much whatever they want. And there's not much you can really do to stop them. Which is why it's so important, whenever you can, to get these guys when they're Chloe's age, when they're that small. And you've got that opportunity to really build a relationship with them. And when we talk about building relationships with our snakes, a lot of people may say that's anthropomorphizing a bit. More of a metaphor, really, of just gaining their trust. These animals are intelligent. They can learn to recognize their keepers, and they're really peaceful by nature. So as long as you treat them right, and they learn that they're not in any jeopardy around you, then it makes them real easy to work with. Which is really important once they get to be this size, because as you can imagine, if this animal hated me, we would not be able to sit in here like this. It'd be an entirely different situation. But, you can see, she's not even really a big reticulated python. At 17 feet, as an adult, if I was to really start throwing food down her neck and start pushing her, then it wouldn't take too long before she'd hit 20 feet. And once Once they get up to 20 feet, start pushing like 150 pounds, then you've really, really got your hands full. Those animals like that can be so much fun to work with. If they've been well socialized, if they haven't, then man, you've really got your hands full with them. Now you guys will see all the videos of people making these snakes fight and bite and all this other stuff. And it's definitely not the type of thing that you want to have when you've got a pet snake like this. When they're this big, you want to make sure that you're friends. You don't want to be going in and intentionally making them strike at you and things like that, because it looks really dramatic and it gets a lot of views on YouTube. But I've been bitten by snakes this big before, bitten and wrapped up, and you've got your hands full. You definitely, that's one of the things that you really want to do before you get one of these guys. Or if you get one when they're young, you definitely want to do this before they get big, is find somebody that can mentor you real life, hands-on with big snakes that may not be as friendly as the one that you've got. Mistakes can still happen. Even as much as I trust this girl right here, let me move this camera around here so you can see her. She's kind of doing stuff. But even as much as I trust this snake right here, we could still make a mistake. Something bad could still happen. And if that happens, it's really important that we understand, how to mitigate it, how to get the snake off of you without hurting them, without getting yourself jacked up. This is all really important stuff. Just really, really an awesome animal right here. And now that she's gotten in here and she's gotten comfortable, I may have a hard time getting her back out. But you can see how she's starting to move her head back here towards the corner of her top of her body. That means she's kind of done, and she's getting ready to try and curl up back here. Plus the heat is on the other side of that, so that's kind of drawing her too. So we're going to let her start moving back towards her enclosure. And then we're going to get one of our males out. And now that we've seen the difference between the males, or the young females and the older females, I've got what you may consider typical male reticulated python. And then I've got the biggest male reticulated python that I've ever personally worked with, sitting right over here. And so we'll go ahead and get him out and let you see the difference there. And he can be a handful sometimes. Come on, sweetie. Let's go. But yeah, one thing that you want to really be careful of when you're working with these guys is see how her body is like that. You want to make sure that you're not pulling them and locking that up right there, because, these guys, they are a big spine. They do have organs in there. So you want to be mindful of that. She's wanting to go back in the corner, and I want her to go this way. But in order to do that, I've got to get her to relax her body and come back around this way, so that way she's not hurting herself. You may not think that you can hurt these guys being the big balls of muscle that they are, but they're organisms just like anything else. Move this over here and we can watch her kind of go back to her house. Come on, sweetness. Come on, girl. She's such a pretty snake. It's hard to believe how small she was when I first got her. And what a big girl she is now. Come on, hon. Come on. There you go. That's a good girl. And this is what I mean when we want to, hey, no, inside. There you go. You want to kind of point them in a direction and let them go on their own, so that you ain't got to wrestle with them quite as much. So this is one of our males. You'll notice he's a different color still. He's not an albino. He's not a normal. He's what's known as a marble platinum. And this is about the typical size that you'd expect to see. Somebody tells you they've got a male retic. You'll see them getting bigger than this, of course. But as a general rule, especially for folks that breed, Typically, this is about the size that you see them in. Now, reticulated pythons are sexually dimorphic, so the females are going to naturally get larger than the males. And this is one reason why a lot of people will go for male retics. And this is one reason why a lot of people will consider getting male reticulated pythons instead of female reticulated pythons, because my best guess on this guy right here, he's probably about 4 years old. I haven't had him since he was a baby, but if I had to guess, I'd put him in the 4 to 5 year old range. And he's actually been a really good snake. Now, this is one of those snakes, he's really spirited. You know, he's never taken a swing at me specifically, but if I come walking around the corner in front of his enclosure and I startle him, he'll strike at the glass. And it's one of those things where, just like we talk about when we're going in on any snake, you know, one of the important things is to make sure that you're there at the enclosure and you give them time to see you and understand that you're there. You don't want to just go straight in and, you know, surprise them and then open the door straight away, because they may be in fight mode at that point. Just like him, when I walked down here at first, struck at the glass again. So I had to give him a couple minutes, open up the door, and he came out and he's just fine. You can see he's really easy to manage, really easy to work with. But, you know, there again, you just really have to pay attention to doing the right thing with these guys and just walking that line between caution and confidence all the time. Ain't that right, buddy? You're just a gorgeous animal. You really are. But he's a really good example of what you'll see with a typical male reticulated python. Now I'm going to put him back, and we're going to get Tigger out, and you guys can see why you're not always safe getting a male if you don't really want a big snake. There you go, bud. Back in there. And again, letting him go into his enclosure on his own. Come on, big fella. Get in there. Come on, you want to go that way? Again with him. Hey, you're okay. Come on. Again with him, I'm trying to make him think this is all his idea. Okay, so this again is a male retic, except he's a little bit bigger than the other one. This guy, if I had to guess, I think he's pushing 10 years old. So, 10 years old, he's at 16 feet, I'm guessing. 16 sounds about right. I haven't measured him in a while. But as you can tell by how out of breath I am, he didn't want to come out of his enclosure. He's curled up in one corner over there. Took a little bit of effort for me to get him over here, but again, there he goes. He's going to curl up in the corner because he doesn't want to be messed with today. And I don't feel like going to hunt him out of there. Come on, bud. Come on. Now the background on this snake too. I got him when he was about 12 feet long, and he hated people when I got him. He chased me out of his enclosure a couple times when I first brought him home. And after working with him for a couple months, we came to an understanding. And ever since then, he's a retic. He's bullheaded. He does his own thing. But he is a really trustworthy animal. I've had him outside before when he gets done running around. I've watched him come back into the house on his own accord, go back into his enclosure. There's been times where he's come across the yard to where I was standing and just crawled right up my leg and crawled up my shoulder, got up on my shoulders. So he's learned to trust me over the years, but the whole point to having him out is you can see how big this snake is. And he's a male. Male reticulated pythons are probably one of the most notorious of the large constrictors. Everybody talks about their breeding aggression and, you know, how much damage these guys can do if they decide to bite you. But the fact of the matter is, it's just like any other animal. It has so much to do with how you raise them. And as long as they trust you and they feel comfortable with you, and as long as you're careful when you need to be, and you don't let them scare you away, they're okay. But if you're getting a male reticulated python because you don't want one that's going to be as big as a female, you really need to take a hard look at this guy. He's not a small snake, as you can see. He's not as big as a retic can get, but as far as snakes go, he's pretty big. 16 feet is still a snake to be taken seriously. So male retics are not something to get if you're just trying to mitigate the size. Honestly, you know, once you get up, I'm going to say, you know, maybe 14 feet and up, then you've got a really serious animal on your hands. But I really love this animal. He's gorgeous. He is a purple tiger. And like I said, I give him somewhere between 10 and 12 years old, maybe a little bit older. I mean, between 10 and 15, something like that. But he does really good. He's a good eater most of the time. He has his times where he doesn't want to eat and he'll go off food for a few months. I just let him do his thing. Offer to him first. When he refuses, I give it to the female. And then sooner or later, he just picks back up again. But he's really active, really healthy, and just an awesome animal. It's really good to get on and start talking snake stuff again. It's been a while. It's been quite a break for a bunch of reasons. You know, I wanted to wait until after the holidays to really start putting stuff out again. And, you know, if you guys have got any of the old content that you'd kind of like to see me redo, or, you know, you got any new questions or anything, be sure to throw them down in the comments. I do want to get back on a regular posting schedule. Even if all we're doing is just kind of rehashing some of the older videos, you know, give me good practice on using the 4K video on this Canon R5 that we're using now for all of our video work. So you guys have seen all of the wildlife photography we've been doing with it. Now it's time for me to really buckle down and start using this for the purpose that it was intended for. That's recording videos here. So let me put him back. And otherwise, I'm just going to sit here and keep getting work out. You can see when they want to go somewhere, it's always fun trying to keep them in one spot. Ready to go home, bud? All right, guys. We'll catch you later. Don't forget, jump down in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you got any questions, any suggestions for upcoming videos. And we'll see you guys next time on Intrepid Exotics. All right, let you guys see how easy Niall's enclosure comes back together. Locks on either side. He's ready to come out. There you go, buddy. And this is Niall's the Nile monitor. Guarantee you that he wants to eat this camera. Oh boy, look at you. You're such a ham. This is a 6-foot monitor lizard. He's a little bit over 6 feet now. Had him since he was a baby. And he is just so full of himself in no uncertain terms. But he's got a really cool enclosure set up here. I've got that foil along the outside so that he can't see the snakes all the time, and so that doesn't stress him out. It holds a heat too. He's got his basking area up there, and he's got a full-size bathtub back here that he can get into. What are you doing? What are you doing, Mr. Niles? You want to come see me? See, he is so feeling himself here recently. Really got to watch him with anything new, because he just wants to bite everything lately. All right, bud. Unfortunately, that includes fingers and stuff like that too. So, they're right. But it's good to see him finally settled in at home. There's Tigger back there behind him. All right, bud. Have a good night.